All right, Shabbos, say good morning. Beautiful daf ahead of us today, daf Yud Gimel. We're going to begin on Yud Beis Amud Beis 12b, and we are going to pick up, we have a lot to do today, my taima, which is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20 lines up from the bottom. So we'll say our shir this morning is dedicated by Doug Stenger in memory of Avram Moshe ben Shraga Feivel Halevi, the great grandfather of Alana Weinberg. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama will have an Aliyah and the family in Nechama. We also thank our Talmud Torah sponsors for the month of Teves, to thank Shirley Elbaum together with their sons Avron, Sean, and Judah Elbaum and their families for dedicating all of the Shurim and Drushos this month in memory of their beloved husband and father Jerry Elbaum in commemoration of his 10th yard site. We hope that in the merit of our Talmud Torah, the Neshama will have an Aliyah and the family in Nechama. And I both say with that, let us begin. So remember again, we left off yesterday with an interesting discussion that Chazal wanted to institute Parshas Balak as part of Kriyas Shema. But remember again, they didn't do so. Why? The Gemara said, "Mepnei Torach Tzibor," because it makes davening too long. Right? Again, at that point in time, it's going to make Kriyas Shema a bit too long, so therefore they refrained from doing it. To which the Gemara says, "My taima, what was so special about Parshas Balak? Right? What was it about that they wanted to institute it?" So, if you want to say it's because it has a reference to Yetzias Mitzrayim, right? It has a reference to Exodus. If that's the case, Lema Parshas Rebis u Parshas Mishkolos. Both say there are other sections in the Torah that also reference Exodus. Let them include the parsha of ribis, interest, or the parsha of having proper weights and measures. Really, what the rabbis liked about Parshas Balak most was that Parshas Balak, when we say Parshas Balak, understand what we're referring to. What we're referring to over here is more specifically the Berachos of Bilam. That's really what it's referring to. So why did they like the Berachos of Bilam? So this is quite beautiful because of the pasuk, Kara shachav kari ukilavi miyikimenu. He crouches down, reference to Klal Yisrael, crouches down, lays down like a lion, and like a lion cub, ultimately again, who could arouse him? Who could get him? Who could cause him to stand up? So we'll say, what does that have to do with anything? So if you look at Rashi says very beautifully, so we'll say, so the imagery ultimately, again, that Bilam is using over here of laying down and getting up is very similar to what? Of Kriyas Shema. Right? When you go to sleep and when you get up of Shema. So because that Chazal originally wanted to institute this particular section, this particular parsha, but again, like we said before, because of Torach Tzibor, because it was too difficult, whereas it would cause a tircha, cause undue difficulty, so therefore they refrain. So why don't you just say that pasuk? In other words, if all you really want at the end of the day is that one pasuk, you don't want the whole parsha, then what? Then halacha l'maisa, just include that one pasuk and don't put in the rest of the parsha. To which the Gemara says, Gemiri, because we have a tradition, Kol parsha de paska Moshe paskinon. The lo paska Moshe Rabbeinu lo paskinon. And Rabbi said this is actually quite incredible. We have a halachic principle, and the halachic principle is that we do not divide up psukim. Any pasuk that Moshe Rabbeinu divided up, we divide up. Any pasuk that Moshe Rabbeinu didn't divide up, we don't divide up. Which Rabbi says another way of saying that we don't use partial psukim. We don't use partial verses. So therefore, Rabbi said this actually comes up. If you remember again, we saw it in the last cycle in Maseches Megillah. Right? This is a big discussion in Megillah. This comes up all of the time. It comes up at least weekly, right? Because again, many people for Kiddush begin with the phrase Vayerev Vayivoker Yom Shishi, right? Yom HaShishi, right? So which Aruch HaShulchan brings up as a fascinating practice, given the fact that that is a partial verse. That is a partial verse. So in fact, the Aruch HaShulchan brings down that really the way one should start Kiddush is Vayar Elokim es kol asher asa v'hinei tov ma'od Vayar vayvoker yom hashishi. You should say the entire pasuk. Same thing with Kiddush Day. Al Kein Beirach, right, is a partial pasuk. So again, it's an interesting discussion in halacha in general about when we allow the use of partial psukim, when we don't allow the use of partial psukim. But again, the Gemara says to just put in the phrase would be dividing up a verse that Moshe Rabbeinu did not divide, and therefore we don't do that. So the Gemara says, Parshas Tzitzis Makavua. Why did Chazal establish Parshas Tzitzis as part of Kriyas Shema? Because both listen to this. Parshas Tzitzis has 5 different elements in it. This is actually quite incredible. Parshas Tzitzis, of course, is the 3rd paragraph of Shema. So listen to this. What does it have? It has Mitzvahs Tzitzis, Yitzias Mitzrayim, Exodus, all mitzvos, the concept ultimately of accepting the entire responsibility of mitzvos, das minim, a repudiation of heretical views, hirhur avera, right, the idea that one can't even think about sin, the hirhur avodah zara, and the negative ramifications of even thinking about idolatry. To which the Gemara says, let's analyze. Bishlam Mahani Klas Mefarshan, so 3 out of the 5 are explicit. All mitzvos tichsev, uri isem also, uzachartem es kol mitzvos Hashem. So we'll say, remember again, the pasuk says by tzitzis. Why do we wear tzitzis? Tzitzis remind us of the Taryag mitzvos of the 630 mitzvos. I see the tzitzis and I'm reminded of the entirety of Torah. That's all mitzvos. Tzitzis dichsev v'asulahem tzitzis. Yitzias Mitzrayim dichsev asher otzeisi. So we'll say, so again, these 3 are explicitly mentioned. All mitzvos, Yitzias Mitzrayim, tzitzis are all explicitly mentioned in the paragraph. Ela das minim hira avera vira avadazar minalan. We'll say, but again, where do I know about the last 3? Disanya acharei levavchem zu minus. So we'll say, so the Torah says in the last paragraph of Shema that you shall not follow after your heart. What does that mean, after your heart? Zu minus. This refers to matters of heresy, right? What it means is don't follow your heart for heretical views. Now, Rashi says something amazing. So ultimately, what does minos mean? Osam hahofchim tamei Torah, the medrash ta'us va'atzil. So ve'elu, excuse me. So we'll say, so what's minos? Minos are those, right, who misinterpret concepts of the Torah and ultimately transform it into something that it is not. Transform it into something foreign. That's minos. Don't follow your heart. We'll say, sometimes the greatest form of minos is when we go ahead and we interpret things in different ways in order to justify things that we already do. Like Rav Shamshon Raphael Hirsch brings this down. He says, what's the difference between idolatry, between avodah zarah and monotheism? He says, in monotheism, you make yourself, in Yiddishkeit, I make myself in God's image. In avodah zarah, in idolatry, I make God in my image. So in idolatry, I decide what I want, and then I create a system around it. So the idea of minos is, sometimes in life we do this, sometimes consciously, sometimes subconsciously, which is we seek to justify things that we do or behaviors that we engage in. And so we interpret, no one wants to be on the wrong side of the law. Everybody wants to be righteous. So sometimes I could be righteous by doing the right thing, and sometimes I could be righteous by reframing the system to suit my needs. That's minos. That's minos, says the Gemara. So what does it mean? Do not follow after your eyes. Zehirhur avera. We'll say this is incredible. This refers ultimately again to thinking about or fantasizing about sin. Shne'emar vayomer Shimshon el aviv osa kachli ki hi yeshara be'enai. As Shimshon said to his father regarding Delilah, take her from me, for she is yeshara in my eyes. So the idea is Shimshon was taken by her beauty, but because ultimately he was swayed by her beauty, he made critical mistakes. Atem zonim zehir avodah zarah. So I will say the continuation of the pasuk, those things which you lust after, this refers to thoughts or desires for idolatry. V'chinu omer vayiznu acharei habaylim. So I will say, so that concludes this section. Says the Mishnah. An incredible Mishnah. We make mention of the Exodus at night. That's the halacha, right? We go ahead. Rashi points out over here, that's the only reason we say the 3rd paragraph of Shema at night. Because remember again, the 3rd paragraph of Shema is Parshas Tzitzis. That's the dominant theme of the 3rd paragraph of Tzitzis. The mitzvah of Tzitzis on a technical level does not apply at night. But yet we still say Parshas Tzitzis at night. What does that show you? Ultimately, again, showing you that we recite that paragraph not for tzitzis, but rather again for Yitzias Mitzrayim. Amar Elazar ben Azariah Hareini ki bin Shem Shana. For those achisi shetamar Yitzias Mitzrayim baleilos. Let's listen to this. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said, I am like 70 years old. and I never merited to have the halacha follow me, that we should recite Yitzias Mitzrayim at night, Ad Shedarsha Ben Zoma, until Ben Zoma came along. And what did Ben Zoma say? Shene Amar, Leman Tiskar Es Yom Tzeischam Eretz Mitzrayim, Kol Yemei Chayecha. Ben Zoma darshan as the Torah says, you shall remember the day you left Egypt all the days of your life. So the Gemara darshans, or Ben Zoma darshan, Yemei Chayecha Hayamim. Yemei Chayecha means you should remember the Exodus by day. Kol Yemei Chayecha, all, what does that all come to include? Halelos, the nighttime. The Chum say no, it means as follows. It means that you should remember the Exodus in this world. Kol lahavili mosa Mashiach. And Kol comes to include what? The Messianic era. That not only do we remember the Exodus, quote unquote, in this world, but even when Mashiach comes, we will still continue to remember the Exodus as well. So we'll say, famous Mishnah Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah says the Gemara Tanya, Amr Lahan ben Zor. We'll say, by the way, the Gemara of Elazar ben Azariah is in Berachos. So I have such a Yetzer Hara to go into this Gemara now, because it's one of the most dramatic Gemaras of Elazar ben Azariah, but it's on Chav Ches. We'll get to it in Mir Tashem in about 2 weeks, so we'll save it for then. Tanya, Amr ben Zoma the Chachamim. Ben Zoma said to the sages, the Mishnah told me something amazing. The Mishnah just told us that when Mashiach comes, we're still going to make mention of Yitzias Mitzrayim, of the Exodus. So says Ben Zoma to the Chacham, is that true? Kim Chai Hashem Asher Helav Asher Hevi Ezra Beis Yisrael Me'eretz Tzifona U'michol Ha'aratzos Asher Yidachtim Sham. But says Ben Zoma to the Chachamim, 1 second. The pasuk says in Yirmiyahu that when Mashiach comes, we're no longer going to refer to God as the God who took us out of Egypt, but rather how are we going to refer to God? The God who is the ingatherer of exiles, the God who brought us in from all the different lands of our dispersion, which sounds like essentially when Mashiach comes, we stop mentioning Yitzias, we stop mentioning the Exodus, because the dominant salvational event becomes Messianic redemption. To which the Gemara says, Amrulo, they said, the Chacham said to Ben Zoma, Lo shete ak Yitzias Mitzrayim koma, ela shete shibud malchias iker, Yitzias Mitzrayim tafelo. So we'll say, to which the Chacham say back to Ben Zoma, it's not the pshat, we're not going to forget Yitzias Mitzrayim, you can't forget Yitzias Mitzrayim, rather what's going to happen? Messianic redemption will become primary, and Yitzias Mitzrayim will become secondary. It'll still be mentioned, it'll still be highlighted, but it won't be the dominant salvational event. Ki otzi bo ata omer, lo yikari shimcha od. Lo yikra shimcha od Yaakov ki im Yisrael yeshmecha. So we'll say just like HaKadosh Baruch Hu changes Yaakov Avinu's name, top of Yud Gimel, lo she'ya'aker Yaakov mimkomo, Eli Yisrael ikar v'Yaakov tafalo. So we'll say just like by Yaakov Avinu, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu changes his name, it's not the pshat that he's no longer called Yaakov. It's just that what? Yisrael becomes the dominant name, Yaakov becomes the secondary name. So to say the Chachamim to Ben Zoma, Mashiach comes, Mashiach becomes the we'll call it the pillar or center salvational event. And Yitzias Mitzrayim it takes on a little bit of a background, of a second tier status, but it's still there. V'cheinu omer al tiskru rishonim v'kadmonios al tisbonenu. So to the Gemara quotes over here the pasuk from Yeshayahu. Literally again, do not remember the first ones, the kadmonios, and the earlier ones al tisbonenu. Do not contemplate. What does that mean? Al tiskru rishonos. Don't remember the first ones. Zesh Shibud Malchios. This refers ultimately again to Shibud Malchios. Also in this context, Shibud Malchios means the various exiles of Bavel, other places. The Kadmonios al Tisbonenu, and the earlier ones do not contemplate. Zu Yetzias Mitzrayim. This ultimately again refers to Egypt. It refers to Exodus. Why? Because Hineni Oseh Chadasha Ata Titzmach. Because now I'm going to make something new and it's going to sprout forward. Tani Rabbi Yosef, Zu Milchames Gog U'Magog. This ultimately again, what is this new thing that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, quote unquote, is making? This refers to the war of Gog U'Magog. We also remember again, Gog U'Magog is the ultimate showdown between good and evil, which precedes the arrival of Mashiach ben David, right? Mashiach ben Yosef is the one who leads the forces of good during Gog U'Magog. Mashiach ben Yosef dies in Gog U'Magog, but that ultimately paves the way for Mashiach ben David. So the Gemara says, Mashal Ma'adav Domer, to what can this be compared? La Adam Shahayim Mahalich Baderech. What's an incredible mashal? Incredible mashal about human nature as well. A person's traveling on the road. Upaga bo ze'ev. He runs into a wolf, right? And what happens? V'nit something Baruch Hashem, he's saved from the wolf. So we'll say what happens? Every person he runs into, v'hayir mesaper v'holich ma'asezev. So we'll say, so what happens? Every person he runs into, he talks about the wolf. He talks about the wolf. I would say from the wolf. Okay, then what happened? Paga ba'ari. He runs into a lion. V'nitzal mimenu. And he is, we'll say, don't travel with this guy. Isn't that the right guy? V'nitzal mimenu. And he's saved from the lion. He's saved from the lion. And therefore what? V'hayir mesaper v'holich ma'asari. And therefore everyone he runs into, he tells about the lion. Paga bo nachash. He runs into a snake. V'nitzal mimenu. He is saved from the snake. Shachach ma'aseh shneim. He forgets about the wolf, and he forgets about the lion, and to everyone he runs into, he talks about the snake. So we'll say, so of course the metaphor is Afkan Yisrael Tsaros Achronos Mashkachos Es Harishonos. So we'll say this, switching gears a little bit, the Gemara says that we will no longer talk about past tsaros. Why? Because the tzara of Gog u'Magog will be so intense that it'll literally cause everything else to disappear into the backdrop. So the war of Gog u'Magog will be so overwhelming that we'll no longer talk about Mitzrayim, we'll no longer talk about Bavel, no longer talk about Rome, no longer talk about any of those things, rather just talking about Gog u'Magog. So we'll say, I just want to point out, what you have over here is something quite amazing. So remember again, we know we accept halacha l'maisa, that we do mention Yetzias Mitzrayim, both by day and by night, right? That's why we say the third paragraph of Shema in Kriya Shema Shel Shachris and Kriya Shema Shel Arvis. In both places, there is a fascinating machlokes, however, about again what's going to happen in the Messianic era regarding Yetzias Mitzrayim. Will we make mention of the Egyptian Exodus or not? So machlokes, fundamental machlokes. Meretz Hashem, halavai we should be zocha to see the resolution. So we'll say the Gemara goes weiter. Now that we mentioned the change of name of Yaakov Avinu, the Gemara brings up some other name changes. Avram, who Avraham. So again, remember, Avram becomes Avraham. What's the meaning of the names? Betchila na'asa Avli Aram. In the beginning, Avram Avinu was a father for his region, right? His region was Aram. So his influence only impacted his region. Ula basof, the hay is added. Na'asa Av l'chol ha'olam kulo. Remember, Avraham means Av Hamon Goyim, the father of a multitude of nations. So the name change represents a fundamental shift in Avram Avinu's sphere of influence. Right? Originally, his sphere of influence is only felt in his immediate region, Avram, Av Aram, but then his sphere of influence really expands to the entire world. Rav Hirsch comments on this as well. He says, it's amazing. Where do we see that Avram Avinu's influence spread around the world? Because Avram Avinu is the father of every major faith, right? So every major faith traces itself back to an Abrahamic ancestor. So in that respect, Avram Avinu is the father of the major faith traditions. It's actually quite an amazing insight. So the Gemara goes weiter. The Gemara says, Sarai, he Sarah. Sarai Lu'umasa. In the beginning, Sarai was literally a princess for her own nation. Ulubasov na'asis Sarah l'chol olam kulo, and then she became ultimately a princess for the greater world. So you see the idea, same idea. The name changes for Avram to Avraham and Sarai to Sarah represent an expanded field of influence, right? So ultimately, again, originally they just impacted their region, but they would each go on to impact the world. Tani bar Kafra, kalakari la Avraham, Avram over ba'aseh. Both say you are not allowed to call Avraham Avram. And if you do so, you actually violate a positive commandment. Shene'emar, v'hayashimcha Avram, Avraham. Because the pasuk says, "V'lo yikari od shimcha Avram, v'hayashimcha Avraham." So the Gemara understands that v'hayashimcha Avraham is a positive commandment. So we'll say Avram and Avraham are not interchangeable. Once Avram becomes Avraham, there is no longer an Avram identity. So the Gemara says, Omer over Belav. Rabbi says, in fact, if you call Avraham Avram, you violate a prohibition. Shneimar v'lo yikari od shimcha Avram. I elameata kori the Sarai Sarai hachinami. So 1 second, is that true from Sarai to Sarah also? That if you call Sarah Sarai, that is also a problem. To which the Gemara says, no. Here's the difference. Hasam kudshabrichu amar li Avram Sarai ishtecha lo sikra eshema Sarai ki Sarah shma. So this is actually quite interesting. The Gemara understands that the real impact of the name change for Sarai to Sarah was for Avraham. Right, was for Avram. That God told Avram, you will no longer call your wife Sarai, but rather you will call her Sarah. but klape chutz, from a public perspective, it doesn't appear that Sarai's name change was as loudly broadcasted as Avraham's. So therefore, again, to call Avraham Avram is in violation of either an aseh or a los aseh, but that doesn't apply from Sarai to Sarah. Elame ata karli Yaakov Yaakov hachanami. So why don't I say something by Yaakov? That I should really call Yaakov Yisrael. That's what God changed his name to. And if you call Yaakov Yaakov, or you call Yisrael Yaakov, then I should be over on some type of prohibition or some type of positive commandment. To which the Gemara says, no. Yaakov is the exception. Shiny hasam the hadr ahadre kra. It's different by Yaakov because the pasuk goes back. It says, "Dechsiv vayomer Elokim liyisrael maros halayla vayomer Yaakov." So we'll say you see over here that's what you see that Hashem Himself called Yaakov even after the name change, right? So unlike Avram, who once he transitions to Avraham is no longer Avram, Yaakov Avinu, even after the name change to Yisrael, is still referred to as Yaakov. Masi Rabbi Yossi bar Avim Rabbi Yossi bar Zvida Atu Elokim Hashem Bachart Avram. So just before we get into this, so just understand the distinction between Yaakov and Yisrael versus Avram and Avram is, remember again, Avram to Avram, as we said before, represents Avram is of a limited influence, Avraham is of an expanded influence. So therefore, if you understand that, it makes sense why you can't call Avraham Avram. He's no longer that person. Yaakov Yisrael is different. The Yaakov Yisrael dynamic or dialectic is Yaakov really refers to the identity of Yaakov as an individual. Yisrael refers to the identity of Yaakov as a patriarch and as the founder of a dynasty. So if you look in the Chumash, you'll see that throughout the Chumash, whenever the name Yaakov is used, the events that are going on refer to Yaakov as an individual. And whenever Yisrael is used, it is always something regarding the Shvatim, regarding the family, regarding more destiny-oriented items. So the Gemara says, one second, Master Rabbi Yossi bar Avin Rabbi Yossi bar Zvida, Ato hu Elokim, Ato hu Hashem Elokim, Asher bacharta bi'Avram. He'll say, but 1 second, we have a pasuk. I have a pasuk in Nehemiah that we say every single day, which is, you are Hashem, the God who chose Avram. Now, what is it saying? The pasuk is talking about Avram over here. Obviously, Nehemiah is way after Avram Avinu, and you're using the name Avram. Why aren't you using the name Avraham? To which the Gemara says, no, there it's different. Amarle hasam navihu to kamasad shvachid l'dirachmana my dahava meikara. The Navi, will say, is talking a little bit from the lens of history. He's saying, you are the God who chose Avram when he was only Avram, and you helped himself actualize ultimately to become Avraham. Incredible. I will say, Hadrin Allah Me'imasai. Mazel Tov. I will say, there are people here, there are people here who may have just finished their first parak of Gemara. There are others who perhaps have just finished their first parak of Maseches Berachos. We'll say, we know sometimes life is this incredible balance. On one hand, you never say, wow, shkoyach, I'm going to take the rest of the day off, right? What we say in Judaism is, shkoyach, great job, what's next? What's next? Yet at the same time, a person always has to take a moment to also give themselves a little bit of a pat on the back for the accomplishments that they have managed to reach. So again, a mazel tov on finishing the first paragraph of Maseches Berachos. For those who again are repeating the cycle of Daf Yomi, an incredible mazel tov to staying with it through the first chapter. For those who are just beginning with us, an incredible mazel tov, and only the beginning, literally the tip of the iceberg for the dramatically amazing things that are still to come. Weiter. Hayakar b'Torah. So listen to this interesting case. A person was reading in the Torah. Now this is actually quite literally Hayakari B'Torah. The person's reading the parsha of Shema in a Torah scroll. V'higiyah zman hamikra, and it came time to go ahead and it came zman kriyas Shema. Im kivein libo yatsa. If he had intent, we'll see what that means. If he had intent, then ultimately again he can be yotzei, the reading of Kriyas Shema, ultimately again through his reading from the Torah scroll. So fine, that's the first halacha. Next, beprakim. Now we're going to get a little bit into the halachos concerning hefsek, concerning interruptions in Shema. So beprakim, beprakim actually means in between the paragraphs of Shema. Now we're going to discuss what in between the paragraphs means in just a bit. Beprakim shoel mipnei hakavod u'meishiv ba'emsa. We'll say in between the paragraphs, you could go ahead and ask mipnei hakavod. Now we'll see this is actually quite interesting. If you look at Rashi, shoel mipnei hakavod, shoel b'shalom adum nechbad shirai lahaktim lo shalom. We'll say you're going to see there are different categories of people. There are some people who you are obligated to respect, right? Who I should have kavod for. So we'll say, so the idea is, one of the manifestations of kavod for another is proactively greeting them. So if I have someone who, let's say, I have kavod for, I proactively greet them. So the Gemara is talking about over here, when can you make interruptions in Shema? So if you're in between paragraphs, shom mipnei hakavod, you could inquire, right? You could greet someone whom you are obligated or who you have reverence for, respect for, umeishiv. And if that person says shalom aleichem to you, you could respond. This is in between the paragraphs. Uba emsa, what happens if you're in the middle of a paragraph of Shema? Then what? Shom mipnei hayira, you are permitted to inquire the welfare of someone who you fear. We'll say, what's the definition of fearing someone? Rashi points out they have the power of life and death over you. So if someone has the power of life and death over you, so you're permitted to interrupt in the middle of the paragraph of Shema to go ahead and greet them. Umeishiv, and similarly, you could go ahead, if they inquire of your welfare, you are permitted to go ahead and respond. Div Rabbi Meir. Both of these words of Rabbi Meir. Rabbi Huda says no. Be'emtza shom mipnei hayira meishiv mipnei hakavod. If you are in the middle of a paragraph of Shema, you could inquire about the welfare of someone who you fear, right? Who you fear, and you could respond if someone who you're obligated to revere gives you shalom, you could respond back. Ubeprakim, but in between the paragraphs, shom mipnei hakavod, you could inquire about the welfare of someone who you're obligated to respect. Umeishiv shalom l'chol adam, and you could return the greeting of any person. So if somebody somebody's shalom aleichem to you, in between the paragraphs, even quote unquote an ordinary person, you could respond to that greeting as well. So it says the Mishnah, when we say between the paragraphs, what are you talking about? Eluheim bein haprakim. Both say here are between the paragraphs. Bein bracha rishon l'shniya. Also, now, interesting enough, this doesn't just refer to Shema itself. What else does this refer to? Berachos Kriyas Shema, the Berachos before Shema. So between bracha number 1 and bracha number 2. So for example, we'll say between Yotzer Or and Avarabba. That would be Bein HaPrakim. Or Yotzer Ma'oros and Avarabba. Bracha Ben Shniya, Ben Shniya l'Shema, between the bracha of Avarabba and Shema, so referring to Shacharis right now. Bein Shema leVahaya. Suppose you see something very interesting over here. Shema and V'ahavta are a unit. Shema and V'ahavta are one unit. So Shema, right? So that's counted as one paragraph. So between Shema V'ahavta and Vayom Shema, that's the second paragraph. Levayom Shema bein Vayom Shema levayomer, and between Vayom Shema and Vayomer, bein Vayomer le'emes v'yatziv, between Vayomer and Emes Yatziv, and so on and so forth. So Rabbi Huda Omer bein Vayomer le'emes v'yatziv lo yafsik. Rabbi Huda says for some reason that between Vayomer and Emes v'yatziv you should not stop. We'll see that in tomorrow's daf. Why not? Amr Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. So we'll say so that those are the halachos of hefsek, right? Of stopping in between the paragraphs. In the paragraphs, we'll see more of that in the Gemara. Amr Rabbi Shua ben Karcha. Lama kadma parshas Shema leVayom Shema. So we'll see now. Remember again, the 3 parshos of Shema do not follow each other in the Torah, right? Shema and V'ahavta are together, right? But at the end of the day, Vayom Shema and Vayomer are not mentioned together in the Torah, right? They're pulled from different places. So why? So Chazal clearly organized this. Not only did they bring the 3 paragraphs together, but they made an order. So Rabbi Shimon Karcha says, "Lama karma parsha Shema leVayom Shema." Why is the parsha of Shema, which Rabbi again means Shema and V'ahavta, why is that before V'hayim Shema? Very simple. Kedei she'kabel alav ol malchushayin tchila, v'achar kach mekabel alav ol mitzvah. So we'll say this is so beautiful, because what does Shema and V'ahavta really refer to? What does Shema and V'ahavta refer to? It refers to an acceptance of a relationship. Kabbalas Omachu Shemayim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I accept you upon myself as my God, and I love you. And I love you. I love you with every aspect of my being. So Shman v'ahavta are Kabbalas Omachu Shemayim. I accept this relationship. I want this relationship. And then Vayam Shema gets into what? Vayam Shema Tishum refers to the performance of mitzvos. I will say mitzvos are only meaningful, truly meaningful if what? if they actualize in the context of relationship. We'll say so many times, this is the part that's missing from our Yiddishkeit. We're so good with the details, and we're so good with the mechanistic behaviors, and we're so in tune with what God wants us to do, but we forget that the performance of those very things is part of a relationship. I daven because I want the relationship. I put on tefillin because I want the relationship. I have Shabbos, I have kashrus, I learn Torah because I want the relationship. These things are not in ends, but they're a means to create a sense of grace, relationship, and closeness. So that's why Shema and V'yahavta have to come before Vayayim Shema. It's incredible. So the Gemara goes weiter. Vayayim v'shon levayomer, shevayim Shema noig bayom b'layla, vayomer ino noig ela bayom bilvad. So we'll say, so a very simple idea. Why does Vayayim Shema come before Vayomer? Because the primary topic of Vayomer is what? Tzitzis, Parshas Tzitzis. That's the primary part of it, right? That only applies by day. So therefore, again, Vayayim Shema, which talks about mitzvos, which applies by day and by night, comes before the paragraph of Vayomer, which primarily deals with subject matter that only applies by day and not by night. Good. Says the Gemara, we'll say an incredible Gemara. Shema Mina, what do you see from here? Mitzvos tzrichos kavana. I will say, now what the Gemara is picking up on over here is something fascinating, which is the opening line of the Mishnah says, Hayakori b'Torah v'yigiyaz man mikra. Person's reading in a Torah scroll. We'll say, just so you understand the picture here. Literally, I'm reading in a Torah scroll. I realize, it's Zman Kriyas Shema. Zman Kriyas Shema. So, as luck would have it, where am I in the Torah? Right, at least initially, I'm right by the section of Shema. Shema. So the Mishnah says, no problem, just go ahead. Im kivein libo, if you have concentration, kavana, intent, you could be yotzei Shema. So the Gemara says, what do you see from here? That in order to fulfill a mitzvah requires explicit intent. It requires kavana. Now I will say, what does that mean, requires kavana? Look at Rashi for just a moment. Shema mina mitzvah srichos kavana, shemis kavin l'shem mitzvah. That when performing a mitzvah, we'll say you have to have in mind the performance of a particular mitzvah. I was supposed to say it is not just enough to do the behavior, but rather a person must have explicit intent that what I am doing is in order to fulfill a particular mitzvah. So the Gemara says, maybe not. Mayim kivein li. But what does it mean if he had kavana in the Mishnah? Maybe it's just likros. He had kavana to read. Likros, kavana to read, v'hagakari, obviously he's reading. To which the Gemara says, bakari lagia. No, maybe what's the case? The case I will say is, the situation, as the Gemara is explaining it, the man who's reading the Torah is reading it to correct it. He's reading it to correct it. So I will say, so sometimes when you read a Sefer Torah to go ahead and correct, so sometimes, first of all, your kavanah is not necessarily to read, and even then you don't always sound out the words correctly. So the idea the Mishnah is saying is, if a person is reading the Torah to correct the words, right? If you Zman Kriyas Shema, if you have in mind to go ahead and read the Torah correctly, read it correctly, then you could be yotzei the mitzvah of Shema, which I will say seems to indicate that mitzvahs do not require explicit intent. So I will say, so this is a much bigger topic. We don't have time to get into it today. I think it might be the topic of next week's Lunch and Learn, the concept of mitzvos tzrichos kavana, because it's actually quite fascinating. Just to kind of give you an idea, we'll say, what is, in order to say, so do mitzvahs require kavana, not require kavana? Then of course the subset to that is, what is kavana? Right? What does kavana mean? Is situational kavana enough? Explicit kavana? And yet one thing we do know, which is for sure, which is what? Some mitzvos do require kavana. That's for sure. I'll say, for example, exactly, sukkah, right? Sukkah requires kavana, right? The opening sif and shulchan aruch is leman yedu dorosechen ki besukkah so shafti es. If in order to fulfill the mitzvah of sukkah, you must understand why you are sitting in that hut. Why does sukkah have that and other mitzvahs don't? Okay, we'll have to be mine in a different time. Tanabanan, kriyas shema kichsava. So we'll say the Gemara goes weiter. Kriyas shema kichsava. Now we'll say what that means is, Rashi says in Lashon HaKodesh, Kriyas Shema must be recited in Hebrew as it is written. V'cham d'cham divrei Rebbe. V'cham d'cham say b'cholosh. You can say Shema in any language you want. To which the Gemara says, my time with the Rebbe, what's Rebbe's logic? Amar kra v'hayu b'av yasanyu. Rebbe says again, because the word v'hayu means these words must be read as they are. Just as they are written in Lashon HaKodesh, so too they must be read in Lashon HaKodesh. For Rabbanan, my time, what's the Rabbanan's logic? Why they can say Kriyas Shema could be said in any language? Amar kra Shema b'chal lashon sh'ata shomeh. Because both say the pasuk says Shema. Shema means what? Shema means hear. So it means hear in any language that you can hear. Well, the Rebbe nami haksiv shema. What does Rebbe do with shema? To which the Gemara says, Rebbe uses shema to teach you that what? When you recite shema, you have to say it enough of an audible voice that you can hear what it is that you're saying. The Rabbanan know that although ideally it's nice to say shema in a semi-audible voice, if you didn't do so, you are still yotzei. What do the Rabbanan do with the word vahayu? The Rabbanan learned it out to mean that you should not read Shema out of order. Right? I will say, now we're going to see exactly what that means. Does that mean the paragraphs out of order or the verses out of order? We'll discuss that. So where does Rebbe learn that you can't read Shema out of order? So we'll say the word hadvarim, these things, the hey, the definitive article, the hey hayidiyah, tells you that these things must be read in the order as they are written. The Rabbanan don't have that drasha. So we'll say this yields a very interesting reality. The Sav Rebbe both say must be that Rebbe holds that in general, the rest of the Torah can be read in any language you want. Why? Because if you hold that the entire Torah must be read in Lashon HaKodesh, so then why does the pasuk need to say by Shema v'hayu? V'hayu. Remember again, what was Rebbe's drasha? V'hayu. Rebbe said Shema must be read as it is written. So that must mean that what? The rest of the Torah can be read in any wording, in any lashon. Because why? The Torah goes out of its way to say that Shema is different. Shema is v'hayu. Shema must be read in the language in which it's written. So the Gemara says, v'hayu dichas Rachman alamali. It's tirach mishum dichsiv Shema. To which the Gemara says, not necessarily, because why? Even Rebbe will say, the pasuk does say Shema. And Shema does have a pretty compelling drush of listen in any language that you hear. Therefore, the Torah has to say, v'hayu, tell me no, Shema has to be read in Hebrew. Or Lashon HaKodesh, I should say. It must be that the Rabbanan hold that the entire Torah can be read in Lashon, or is read in Lashon HaKodesh. Because if you say that the entire Torah can be read in any language, Shema dekasev Rachman alamali, then why do you need the drush of Shema? Right? According to the Rabbanan, Shema says what? Listen in any language that you hear. It's mishum dechsev v'hayu. So we'll say same thing. According to the Rabbanan, because there is the phrase v'hayu, therefore you need Shema as well. Good. Tana Rabbanan v'hayu shelo yikra lemafreya. V'hayu means you can't read the parts of Shema out of order. Hadvarim al libavecha. What does it mean? These words on your heart. Yachol teikol parshat tzricha kavana. You might have thought that the entire parsha of Shema should require kavana. Talmud lomar ha'ila. Therefore, the pasuk says ha'ila, or the word is ha'ila. Ad kan tzricha kavana. It is only until the point of until the words al libavecha in the first paragraph of Shema that you have to have kavana. Mikan ve'elach in tzricha kavana. But from that point on, you do not require kavana. David Rabbi Eliezer. Rabbi Akiva says, Harehu Omer, Amadeus, Harehu Omer, Asher Anochi mitzavecha hayom al libavecha. The pasuk says that I've commanded you today on your heart. Mikan atalamat. From here you learn shekala parsha kula tzricha kavana. That the entire first paragraph of Shema requires kavana. Now, both say, what exactly does kavana mean? Let's assume right now we're dealing with the most basic definition of kavana, which is number one. You're awake, right? Which, all kidding aside, we're going to see that's an issue, right? You're awake. Number two, you're not doing anything else, right? I'm not walking, I'm not this. I'm awake, and I am focused on this. Rabbi Akiva. The halacha was Rabbi Akiva. You should have kavanah for the entire first paragraph of Shema. One who reads Shema has to have kavanah. Kevan shekivein libo b'perek rishon shuv einot tzarich. Rabbi Yehuda says, once you've had kavanah for the first paragraph of Shema and v'ahavta, there is no longer any obligation of kavanah. Boss, I just want to be clear. When we say no obligation of kavanah, please understand, of course it's good to have kavanah, right? But what it's saying is what is an indispensable necessity for the actual performance of the mitzvah. Fine. Tanya idach, another brayso, v'hayu shelo yikra lemafreya. V'hayu teaches me I can't read Shema out of order. Al levavcha, on your heart. Rabbi Zutra Amar, ad kan mitzvahs kavana. Mikan ve'elach mitzvahs kriya. Rabbi Zutra said, up until this point of al levavcha, in the first paragraph of Shema, that's where you have to have kavana until. From that point forward, there's not a mitzvah of kavana, but there's a mitzvah of kriya. The mitzvah of kriya means you must read it correctly, right? You must read it without mistakes. Rabbi Yoshia Omer, ad kan mitzvahs kriya, mikan ve'ilach mitzvahs kavana. Rabbi Yoshia Omer says the opposite. Up until this point is the mitzvah of kriya. From here on is mitzvah of kavana. What does that mean? Maishna mikan ve'ilach mitzvahs kriya, dichsiv ledaber bam. So we'll say, so why is it ultimately, again, according to the first opinion, that Allah Lamaisa, the mitzvah of kavanah is up until alavavcha, but after that there's only mitzvah of kriya, because the pasuk is ledaber bam. You have to speak in them. Speak in them means that you just have to say the words. You don't have to have kavanah. But in the second paragraph it also says v'dibartam bam, right? So maybe again you have to have kavanah through the second paragraph. Hachi kamar ad kan mitzvahs kavana ukriya mikan ve'ilach kriya below kavana. Rather, what it means, Rabbi says, up until the middle of the first paragraph is the mitzvah of kriya with kavana. The rest of Shema is just the mitzvah of kriya, which means you have to read it correctly with no kavana. Umayshna ad kan mitzvahs kavana ukriya dichsiv alavavcha v'dibarta bam. Hasamnami haksiv alavavchem alavavchem ledaber bam. So we'll say, one second, you're telling me that you only have to have kavanah and kriya through the middle of the first paragraph because it says alavavcha v'dibarta bam, but in the second paragraph it also says alavavchem ledaber bam. So should that not mean that I need to have kavanah through the second paragraph as well? Homi b'alei chid Rabbi Yitzchak damar v'samtem es devarai eila. What does it mean that you shall place these things? Right? Tzricha shetehei sima keneged halev. Rabbi say that teaches us that what? That ultimately, again, tefillin, if you look at Rashi, it's the last white line in Rashi on top. Shetehei sima keneged halev dehav samtem dichsiv lav b'kriya b'kavana ayri ela b'simas tefillin. Because Rabbi say the second paragraph, already when speaking about v'samtem es devarai ila, is no longer talking about the words of Torah, but rather is talking about tefillin. Rabbi say, Amar, so we're going to resolve this in just a moment. Amar, Rabbi Yoshia Omer, ad kan mitzvahs kriya, mikan ve'elach mitzvahs kavana. So let's remember again, Rabbi Yoshia said that up until the words al levavcha in the first paragraph of Shema is the mitzvah of kriya. From that point on, there's the mitzvah of kavana. So we'll say, Maishna mikan ve'elach mitzvahs kavana. Why is it that the mitzvah of kavana would be only after that point? Mishum dichsiv al levavchem. Hachanami haksiv alavavcha. So we'll say, this is what it means to say, ad kan mitzvahs kriya v'kavana. Really what he meant to say, Abba say, was, up until this point, meaning alavavcha, there's a mitzvah of kriya and kavana. Mikan ve'elach kavana below kriya. But from that point forward, there's a mitzvah of kriya, of kavana, but without necessarily being medaktek in kriya. Umayshna ad kan mitzvahs kriya v'kavana, dichsiv alavavcha v'dibarta bam. Hasamnami haksiv alavavchem ledaber bam. To which the Gemara says, here's the difference. That's not talking about kavana, rather, hahu b'divrei Torah ksiv. That's actually talking about words of Torah. V'achakam rachmana, this is what the Torah is telling us. Agmiru banaychu Torah, teach your children Torah, ki hechi dilegar subahu, in order that they should become versed in Torah. Or as I will say, what is the goal of chinuch? What is the goal of chinuch, of being mechanech our children? Not just simply to teach our children Torah as if it was another subject matter, but ultimately, again, to enable our children to become proficient in Torah. Because if they're proficient in Torah, then ultimately, again, they will delve into Torah. It's a very important yesod. The goal of chinuch is not to ply my child with information. That's not the goal, right? That's not the goal. Because again, just because you have a lot of information doesn't mean it has any level of meaning to you. But the goal ultimately, again, is to help them become versed in Torah, agmiru. Help them understand and appreciate the beauty and profundity of Torah, ki hechi dilagar subu, so that they will want to learn Torah on their own. Incredible. Tan Rabbana. So we'll say, so again, just to understand, to sum up, I know we're going quickly, I apologize, but to kind of summarize, we have a fundamental machlokes as to how much of Shema do you have to have kavanah for. Here's what we know. What does everyone agree on? That you don't what? You don't need kavanah for the entire Shema. That's for sure. Interestingly enough, what do you require for the entire Shema? Kriya, right? Proper reading of the words. That you absolutely require for Shema. But you don't need kavanah. So what we've seen so far are different opinions as to how much of Shema you actually must have kavanah for. So we'll say, here we come to the halacha. Tan Rabbanan, second wide line. Tan Rabbanan, Shema Yisrael Shalom Hashem Echad. Ad kan tzricha kavana salev div Rabbi Meir. Both Rabbi Meir says, how much of Shema do you have to have kavanah for? The first line. Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. Both say that is where the obligation of kavanah for Shema begins and ends. Amr Rava, Hilchas Rabbi Meir. Rava says the halacha follows Rabbi Meir. Tana Sumchus Rabbi says so again, and this indeed is the halacha as codified by the Shulchan Aruch. That although ideally, of course, we strive to have kavana for the entire Shema, but at the end of the day, as long as you could have kavana for the first line of Shema, Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad, ultimately, again, that is going to be enough. So the Gemara says, we're going to discuss in one moment what that kavana is. Amar Rav, halach Remeir, Tanya Sumchus Omer, Kol ha'ma'arich be'echad, ma'arichin lo yamav v'shnosa. Rabbi say this is very beautiful. Whoever prolongs or elongates the word echad, ultimately, again, ma'arichin lo yamav v'shnosa, is given longevity of days and years. Amar Rav Acha bar Yaakov, we'll discuss in just a moment. Rav Acha bar Yaakov, ubedalid. What are you supposed to elongate? Rabbi say you're supposed to elongate the dalid. Rabbi say, now the truth is, many Sephardic traditions have a much easier time with this than Ashkenazim. Because we Ashkenazim, we say dalid as da. You can't really elongate a da sound. Because what happens if you elongate a da sound? What is it? It's ah. Da. It's not that, it's an ah sound. So in certain Sephardic cultures, the dalit is a th. Is a th sound. You could elongate a th sound much better than you could elongate a da sound. But nevertheless, okay, but we elongate the dalit. We'll discuss in just a moment. Amar Rav Ashi says, O bilvad shel yachtov beches. But make sure that the elongation of the dalit doesn't come at the expense of the ches. Rabbi Yirmiyah Havi Yosef kamed Rabbi Chia bar Abba chazedehu marich tuva. So let's listen to this. Rabbi Yirmiyah was once sitting in front of Rabbi Chia bar Abba, and said Rabbi Chia bar Abba was really elongating the echad. Amar lei kevan dem lichte lamalu lamata la'aba ruchas hashamayim sulo tzrichas. You're good, right? We're not enough already. Right? So once you say the echad long enough, that you could have in mind ultimately again that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the God above and below and in all four directions. There is no need to elongate it or prolong it anywhere. So we'll say, let me just end with this important piece of halacha. So halacha l'maisa, this is how we paskin. The Shulchan Aruch paskins that again the ikar kavana for Kriyas Shema ultimately is on the first line. Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. If you have kavana for that first line, you have discharged the obligation for kavana. The rest is an obligation of kriya. What is the kavana that you have to have during Kriyas Shema? This is very important. So obviously the Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem is our God. I accept HaKadosh Baruch Hu as my God. I willingly enter into the relationship in that moment. Hashem Echad. Now, we'll say the Ikar Kavanah is in Echad. Echad, the Aleph, means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is one. Ches, there are 8 dimensions of the celestial sphere. So I believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has full reign over every one of the dimensions of the celestial sphere. And Dalid, 4, refers to the 4 directions. I believe that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the God over all 4 directions of the world. So so number 1, I enter willingly into this relationship. God is one. He reigns over all 8 levels of the celestial sphere and all 4 corners of the world. That is the kavana. That is an indispensable necessity for the fulfillment of the mitzvah of Kriyas Shema. The Mishnah Berurah quotes an interesting practice that someone covering their eyes for Shema, and I will say the idea of covering your eyes also is just a din of kavana, is a din of concentration. Some have a practice that when they say echad, ultimately again, specifically by the dalid, they move their head in all 4 directions. Ultimately, again, being a way to reinforce that kavanah, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu is the God of what is above, and the God ultimately, again, of all 4 directions as well. We'll say just one more piece. We have another minute. So the Gemara says, Tanabanan, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. So Shema Yisrael Hashem, right? Zehu, Zeh Kriyas Shema Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi. We'll say, this was the Shema that Rabbi Yehuda Hanasi said. Amar Lei Rav, Amar Lei. Did I skip? Okay, Amar Rav Nasir bar Marak Amar Rav Yehuda Alav Avcha Ba'amida. All right, we're going to stop here. I tried. All right.